All right, welcome to lesson 4 of our Restless Bible study.
I started reading 5 and then I was like, oh, I'm glad you sent that thing out.
Yeah, it was, well, because we skipped last week because of the Hope Center event, which it was a very, very good event. We ended up, what's the total number?
Almost 400.
400 there, which equals serving a little under 1,000 heartbeats. So it was really, really good and exciting and stressful. And if any of you came at 10 o'clock and you looked for me, you probably never found me because I was running around like this the whole time. They don't give me a job to do because I'm just in charge of putting out fires. And so that means I think I got like, on my Fitbit, I got like 17,000 steps because I was just back and forth, figuring stuff out. So it was
what they followed you around.
Right? I told Rose, who's our development person, and she's kind of in charge of our events, that we should really sign up for like a 10K because in the 2 hours of the event, we basically do a 10K. So like we should at least get medals for this. So yeah, it was good though. It was good, and I appreciate you guys allowing us to cancel studies so that we could get back in together. So lesson 4 is about places and your place. And I don't know if you had a chance to read the opening story about Katie Davis, but Katie actually wrote a book called Kisses from Katie. Has anybody ever heard of that book before? So I believe that Katie has adopted like 17 children so far. And basically Katie's story was that when she was in college, I think maybe not even finished with college yet. I don't know if it was after she graduated or just right after, but she basically went on a mission trip to Africa. And while she was there, she fell in love with the kids there. And basically told her parents, I'm moving there by herself. She wasn't married, none of that. I'm moving and I'm going to adopt children. And I'm not gonna bring them here because I want them to grow up in their home environment. And so that's what she did. And she still lives there to this day. And her story is just phenomenal. And if you ever are looking for a good read, I would look for Kisses for Katie because it's just an awesome, awesome book. It's really about, really following what God has laid on your heart. And she was really sure that that's what she wanted to do. But in the opening, she talks a little bit about Katie's story and how when they heard Katie's story at their church, everybody in the church, was like, I want to go to Africa and I want to do what Katie's doing. And that sounds so amazing. But as they dug a little deeper, they found that really and truly, your Africa can be right outside your doorstep. That you don't necessarily have to travel to another continent to be able to do what it is that God is calling you to do. And so that's kind of what we talk about today in our study. We looked at Joseph again, and we looked at the places where Joseph was. And I was sad that she did not make the connection that Joseph was in Africa. I mean, really wanted her to do that, but she didn't. That Joseph was in his Africa. But so you're looking at Joseph's story, and you're looking at the places that he was. Where besides Africa were the places that Joseph was? Country of his birth. Where else? Where did he go from there? Right. And then while he was in Egypt, where did he end up while he was there? Potiphar's house. Where else? So he went to prison, and then he ended up in Pharaoh's house. Interesting question that I liked in here on page 101 was describe the amount of control Joseph had over his circumstances.
It's funny. It's like he had none and he had it all.
He had none and he had it all. That's like perfect. Why do you say that? Give me a little bit more there.
Because he was under totally someone else's control. in both powers and in prison, but he went and did what God gave him to do anyway. And so his influence was massive. So without knowing he had control, he did what he was supposed to do, and he ended up having control because of that.
Right. So even though he was stuck in bad circumstances, and even though if he could have taken one route and just said, I'm stuck here, everything's hopeless, but instead he took some control of the situation and said, no matter what, I'm going to follow God because I'm a believer in God.
He had control over his attitude and reaction to the circumstances.
Absolutely, control over his attitude. So there were a couple of things that they wanted you to talk about. Just how did you see, and just one word, how do you think Joseph's work ethic was while he was stuck in those places?
Admirable.
Admirable. Wow, that's a good word. Steadfast.
And a moral man. Inspired innovation.
What about his concern for others?
He's very
He was honest.
He was honest. He was concerned.
He's compassionate.
He was compassionate.
He's sensitive because he could see it in their faces.
Right. What about his attitude towards God?
He trusted.
He trusted. Do you think you could have trusted God in those circumstances? Probably not. I mean, we think that we might be bitter or angry or give up on God. What about the usage of his gifts while he was stuck?
Use them to show who God was and God was.
So he used his gifts to show God's glory. And what about his view on waiting? He had this dream that he was going to be the biggest and the best, and then he's stuck sitting in prison.
So he surrendered.
He surrendered. That's good.
Patient.
He was patient and
He made the
surrendered.
best of the situation he was in during that time. Instead of being like you said, woe is me, he made the best. And he
Made the best.
Yeah, it couldn't be worse.
Absolutely. So in Matthew 28, does anybody have a Bible that they could turn to Matthew 28 for me? iPad, I've got it up here, but go ahead and turn to Matthew 28. I'm going to read it. I don't know what happens when I do this. Hopefully they can still see me. So I'm reading it from the Message. Meanwhile, the 11 disciples were on their way to Galilee, heading for the mountain Jesus had set for their reunion. The moment they saw him, they worshiped him. Some, though, held back, not sure about worship, about risking themselves totally. Jesus went right ahead and gave this charge. God authorized and commanded me to commission you. Go out and train everyone you meet, far and near, in this way of life, making them by baptism in the threefold name of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Then instruct them in the practice of all I have commanded you. I'll be with you as you do this, day after day, right up to the end. So the question was asked, in light of those words, in light of the Great Commandment, what's your job description?
Obey.
Obey. What else?
Rejoice.
Rejoice.
Glorify him.
Trust.
Trust.
I wrote the statement, I guess.
Please tell me
To be
your
the light
statement.
in the dark world, sharing the hope that Jesus died so that we could live.
So be a light and share hope.
Be disciples, make disciples. I was thinking that song.
Make
I
disciples.
used to say, the service about make disciples.
I just said go be do. That would be me. But go forth, be the light, and do what's right. So she talks about that life is too short for us to kind of feel like we're stuck, right? And on page 105, there's this great little statement from Jim Elliot. It says, wherever you are, be all there.
I underline that.
I did too. What did you think of that?
It's profound. I mean, it's simple and it's profound. You're there, do it.
Well, but be all there too is like Joseph not only was he surrendered to God's will where he was, but he may have the joy of the Lord in a circumstance that most people would have been like, this is ridiculous. You know, maybe I'll do the right thing, but my heart is inside a little bitter. I feel like it's that absolute surrender that wherever we are, be all there.
And nothing distracted him. He was just
Focused on the end goal.
Well, you have to look at everybody's situation. Some people are in a situation where they can't change, because let's say you're in a household or your child, you're in that place, you can't change your location, but you can change your state of mind.
Can't change your location, but yeah.
Whatever, you know, sometimes you're working, you can't do work, but you have to accept this is what I'm going to do. Right.
On page 106, she talks about how, just as Melody said, it's not our places, it's what we do in our places. But, you know, honestly, you know, the study's called Restless. So maybe we are restless in our place. Maybe there is discontentment where you are. And that's really something that you have to struggle with. I think I missed my little thing, but I liked where she said, I'm sorry, I've read over it. No, I don't know where I'm going with it. Maybe it was, oh, I bet it's in the conclusion. I'm sorry. I got lost in my words here.
yes, I think on 105, this one really spoke to me, you know, at the end of the paragraph, it said, people just jump.
Thank you. That's what I was
This
looking
will is
for.
going to catch us. Quit over analyzing. I know she smile next to me because she knows that that's going
Well, it's God, actually,
I think about it.
Right.
I think about it. It's
it's
exhaustion.
first, you know.
Right. Yeah, that was definitely, and I'm sorry I had lost it.
That's page 105.
Page 105.
Really imagine that.
Thank you. Yes. That there is no need for that fear. That if we will just jump, that God will, that His will is going to catch us. Let God be God. Move ahead with what you know and quit overanalyzing what you don't. I think that that is number one. Start, right? Because that's what we do. We get stuck in the what ifs. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if we go this direction? And honestly, what is the worst that could happen?
Well, we don't get anything done until we do this.
Right, because you're just stale and you just stop. You're
We
stuck.
don't always get a second chance.
Oh, that's really good, Dee. So we don't get a second chance maybe to get unstuck. When the opportunity comes, we got to take it.
Well, unfortunately, that's not going to change. I think that society, like all the disclaimers and warnings, more people are thinking of all the contingencies now than do anything. You have 4 pages of do not do this, do not. But you're asking us to take anything safe.
Absolutely.
And where at these people, like, I just read the warnings. If I take this right, I have 1% chance of my hair falling out. That's how people are living now. They're not looking at that week that fire will there to catch you. Who can I see that reaction?
Yeah, exactly.
Because we're raising up a godless generation, unfortunately, because we've allowed government, not to get political, but if you think about it, we've pushed God out. So how can we say, just trust, we're saying, trust yourself. You're going to be the best person you could be. And we're missing the number one thing is trust in God. He will create and make you the best person you're going to be. So we have kids that are, and people walking around going, I'm so angry, I'm so lost, because they've been taught that you're trusting yourself. It's always going to fail.
And I mean, honestly, if you put your trust in yourself, it's always going to fail. 100%, because there's no way that anybody can do it right all the time. So you have to have that that spirit, that God to be looking towards and at, so that you have an example, honestly. And we are, I don't think we do enough of pushing that and teaching that in our communities. Project 1, page 111. You were to write down your places. So did anybody write a place that they would like to share? A place that you considered maybe being your Africa?
Lots of them.
Angela?
My job.
Angie said the Community Hope Center.
I after that every day. So being able to be there, and when God collides your passion with being able to provide for yourself. I mean, there's nothing more awesome than that. To be able to every single day we get to pray and have the freedom to do that. When we're in a world where we've taken God out of everything. There are struggles, and there are times where we wish we had government money, lots of it, but that would take away what we're able to do. So, yeah, it's an awesome place.
Absolutely. I would agree. I mean, obviously, that's what I wrote as well. I have to tell you guys a funny story. So I, at 11 o'clock last night, submitted the final of my this go around of ordination paperwork. And this time, I had to put it into this program called Authenticate, which is basically a plagiarism program. So you have to upload it, and then it cross-references all the references on the internet that might match to what you wrote. It's pretty cool. Yeah, you're not going to be able to steal anything now. However, I got a 23% score on plagiarism. Do you want to know why? Well, the Bible, yes, that was one. Myself.
That's awesome.
Because I have written about the Hope Center on our website and kind of use the same language, you know? Like, so when I'm explaining the Hope Center in my ordination paperwork, and I'm explaining it on the Comprez website or the Hope 192 or on my blog, it's like, at least my messaging is the same. Like, that's what I think is like, at least I'm consistent. So I left it. I didn't make any changes because I was like, surely they will see that the three kings are written by me. But I thought that was really great when thinking about places, that even a computer program can match me to my places, the places where I'm predominantly speaking the message that I want spoken, and I thought that was really, really interesting. I also, for places, I think about the fact that I did not live in the community that I served for so long, and how much of a struggle it was for me to be so far away from the Hope Center, living way out in the St. Cloud Manor, and that 40 minutes, that 45 minutes really changes the dynamic of how you can serve your places. I know that seems a little silly because you would think it's the same, but just the extra stress it brought, the travel, the not really being in community with people, not being able to be available as quickly as I'd like to. And then just thinking about how it took so long to get to Kissimmee finally, like, who wants to move to Kissimmee? Like, really? But, a year and a half of fighting and, wonderful people helping me and making it happen. I think, like, at the end, and Ms. Rocker, Jay Wetzel, like, I think at the end of the thing, I think he just, like, didn't even tell me anything that was happening. He was just like, we're going to make this work. Because, I knew that this is where God wanted us to be. I knew that God wanted me to be serving in my community. And the fact that it takes me 12 minutes to get to the Hope Center now is just the biggest gift to know that it's okay, that it's my Africa, and even so, the fact that, if I need to go to a meeting at the city of Kissimmee, it's 5 minutes away. Those are like really blessings for me. So I was just thinking about that. But that I also had to be faithful when I was like crying every single day because I had to live in St. Cloud Manor, But and I know that sounds so silly, especially when you are like, you have a house and you work with people who are homeless. It's so hard to balance, that need. But, honestly, it was just a really hard time in my life. And it feels superficial and like a first world problem, but I knew we were not where God wanted us to be, I knew 100% that it was not where we were supposed to be. So project 2, and maybe you didn't have time to do this, but I want you to. If there's anything in lesson 4 that I want you to go back and do, it's the fun part where you get to dream. And think about prayers for each of these places in your life, your city, your neighborhood, your job. the schools that your kids attend or that you're connected with. And then any other places, you know, your church, your other groups that you participate with. I think that God is amazing in the places that he puts us. And I think that it's very intentional. I think that when God anchors us somewhere, especially when he anchors us somewhere, and especially when he anchors us somewhere where we feel restless, that is him saying there is something more for you here. You're not finished with what I have for you. And I think that's really important because it is hard, especially when you are in a place where it is not easy, where being in that place hurts. You know, what do you do with that? What do you do with that when you are in a place where you're constantly being berated or abused? What do you do in the places where you're lonely and you're separated from your family? I think God wants to deliver us from those places, and I think God will deliver us from those places, but I also think that we have to be faithful in those places as well. And that's a really hard struggle. I think that, you know, I remember early in my career, I was in a job where I was really, really disrespected a lot and treated really poorly. Not just mean, bad boss, but gossipy, lying, ugly, backstabbing, just nasty, ugly stuff. This just doesn't belong, you know? And I remember just being so broken about it because, you know, I am, as everybody in this room knows, just what you see is what you get. Like, my life is an open book. And I just was just like, you know, I was literally in my shower and I was just bawling uncontrollably. God, I cannot do this again. Cannot for one more minute maintain this. And then just the Spirit leaning heavily and saying, my grace is sufficient for you because my power is made perfect in your weakness. And man, that is my life verse, if there is any, you know, that the places where we're weakest is where God will be the strongest if we can be like Joseph and we can let him. In the conclusion, she says on page 115, our places are not an accident. Your gifts and stories will be used in many different places over your lifetime. We have freedom to dream about our places. There is great purpose in using our gifts in corporations, nonprofits, state school systems, churches, and neighborhoods. Our God does not separate secular and spiritual. God just wants us to participate in his story wherever you are and in with whatever you have. Let's watch our video.
Yeah, those are different.
Just dim the right behind.
That one is something. Yeah.
There we go. You can shut the door too, Kristen. I don't think it is.
Okay. How could you live more intentionally in your places? I think every single day I wake up with a battle on my hands. I'm a mom of 4 boys, and I stay home with them. Someone asked not long ago, and I did a whole study and realized that people don't know who their neighbors are. Am I going to view every single opportunity as an opportunity to be Christ to those around me. I don't always see the fruits of my labor, and parenting is really challenging from that perspective. I realized really quickly that I didn't know my neighbors. I didn't know any of their names. Just like I am a creation of God, trying to find my purpose and my place, they are too. The reminder that God is in control, that I'm not, is something that I speak to myself daily. Maybe walking the dog more regularly in the same place and at a time where people would be coming and going. I think that would actually kind of begin to change my life.
Let me read you always last one coffee. So if you're still with me on this week, thank you. And you just bravely bared your soul. You just bravely went into the darkest moments of your life and you processed those. And I am so incredibly thankful that you have not walked away. And so we've been looking at story, we've been looking at gifts and suffering. And to some degree, those things are very static. Like they've happened, those moments have happened. They're already built into our story, they're already built into our lives. And now we're gonna look at a few threads that move, that change, that may not be the same in 5 years. These are pieces in our lives that God wants to use to build into the kingdom of God. So I don't know what your places are. I don't know if you're in a neighborhood or an apartment building or college dorm, or if you are in a job that you possibly hate, or you're in a job that you love and you've never been happier. But I know this, a lot of my friends, including myself a lot of times, is very restless in my place. I'm very restless in the places that God puts me sometimes. And I think to some degree, I think that if I could change a place, a particular place, that if I changed it and moved closer to my family, who I adore, my sisters are my best friends, if I could move by them, you know, one of them lives near Denver, Colorado, that would be really extra great. So I would pick that sister, although I love them both, but you know, Denver. I could move to Denver with my sister, possibly my soul would not be so restless. Possibly in Denver, Colorado, with my sister who I love, and my little nephews and nieces that are plentiful because she has a bunch of kids, I would be happy. Has anyone else thought that? If I could change my place, I could be happy. I think a lot of us think that. I have friends in jobs they hate and they're supposed to stay. I have friends in jobs they love and they are supposed to go. I have friends that have moved overseas and their house sold in 2 weeks and everybody said that is definitely God's will. I have friends that have moved overseas on mission and they never sold their house for years and they went into debt. So do you stay or do you go? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to tell you to stay and I'm not going to tell you to go. But I do know that God cares about our place. It's not completely irrelevant. He actually sets us in our places. He sets us in our places. He does that so that people come to know him. So he is strategic about places. He cares about them. But I think it gets us all stressed out. It gets me stressed out because I start to read Crazy Love by Francis Chan or read Radical by David Platt, these books that are just saying, you know, be radical for Jesus. And I'm like, Africa, like I'm gonna sell my stuff in my home and I'm gonna go to Africa. And then last week somebody told me that they became a Christian at a country club. I'm like, okay, that messes with that plan. Like, I think it's possible that our place is not our problem. That our place can believe that our place is important. But our calling doesn't change wherever we go. And so this week, we looked at Joseph's life, who ends up in slavery, sold by his brothers. He goes, and he serves, and he does great work as a slave. Something about his places, he just strapped it on, his calling, and he did it. It wasn't fancy, and it wasn't the dream that he had had that was so glorious where everybody bowed down to him. It wasn't. But he said, I'm going to do this well in this spot with my time. So, what is our job in our places, wherever we are? Go in your Bibles to Matthew 28, verse 18. So Jesus is about to ascend up into heaven. He's been raised from the dead. And he's given his last words to his people. And he says, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. And I'm going to tell you this. Go, therefore, and you make disciples of all nations, and you baptize them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teach them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you always to the end of the age. See, these men, what he knew was that they're going to be there soon. They're going to be back with him really soon. And he says, make disciples of all nations. He kept it simple. Because what they knew well was discipling. Like, that's what he had done with them for years. So they knew what it looked like to go and love and heal and serve and wrap their arms around people and tell them they're forgiven and tell them about Jesus and tell them that this isn't pretend and tell them that they're going to go to heaven and tell them that there is a bigger hope than this life and tell them that he is worth it. They knew what it looked like to be disciples. So they were going to go. They were going to do this in their places. And their places kept changing. And their places sometimes were the same. And some people stayed and some people went. But it did not matter. All their jobs were the exact same. And so I have a friend that just started boot camps in our neighborhood because she is just good at that. And she loves her neighbors. And she thought, as she was processing this material, she thought, I could do this. This is no big deal. And that has grown and grown. And she's leading several now in different neighborhoods. That's my friend Becca's place. And then I have another friend that I just kissed goodbye, and she got on a plane, and I don't know where she went because the country is illegal to be there and to talk about Jesus. So she couldn't tell us where she was going. And I don't know her place. But that was obedience. So I think we start to get so narrow-minded that our places determine our happiness and that our places determine our ability to serve God. I think we believe that. We start to put that in our heads. Maybe even use it as an excuse. And so Philippians, Paul, also in prison, that was his place when he wrote this letter. And it's so funny because if you give this book a theme, it's joy. If you give the book of Philippians a theme, it's joy. And he's sitting there writing from a prison cell. Philippians 1:12. Paul says, I want you to know, brothers, that what has happened to me has really actually served to advance the gospel, so that it has become known throughout the imperial guard and to all the rest that my imprisonment is for Christ. And most of the brothers, having been confident in the Lord by my imprisonment, are much more bold to speak the word without fear. He's sitting in prison and he knows good and well. He's just exactly where God wants him. And I doubt that it's easy or comfortable, but he's in his place and he receives that. It's not the place that he picked. It wouldn't ever be the place any of us would pick. But from it, he knew his jobs. I'm going to live in such a way that these guards want my God. In my place, I will live in such a way that my people want God around me. And then he was going to do his job anyway. He was going to write letters. He was just really good at writing. Very anointed to write from wherever he was. And he was going to love people from wherever he was. And he was going to love God and be content wherever he was. See, I don't think it's as much about our places as it is how we love and live in our places. And so I think so many of us ask this question all the time. God, am I in the right place? And let me say, I think it is a good question. Zach and I pray that prayer almost every year as we look at our kids' school, as we look at our neighborhood, as we look at our finances, as we look at our jobs. Almost every year we get before God and we lay our hands open and we say, God, are we in our right places? Do you want us anywhere else? We'll go. Something about it is just a surrender of, I'm not going to hold on to any place that you put us. I'm also not going to demand to go somewhere that you don't want me to go. I'm just going to say I'm willing to stay and I'm willing to go. So much of being in the right place and being obedient is just being willing to be in the right place. Being willing to be obedient. God is smarter than us. God is bigger than us. And God is in a little bit more control than us. And some of you are like, no, like not that one. Like I would like to keep control of my life, so I don't know if I trust God. Different subject, different day. But today, God is in more control. And I want you to think of him like a dad in a swimming pool. In your places, in your will, and where you want to be, and all the questions and discontent you feel. And I want you to just imagine that some of you are just gung-ho, running in the pool, going to change something, going to do something, going to move, and you're running and you're jumping like far out, like way past God. And you know what he does? The same thing I do when my kids that don't swim jump to me. You know what I do? What do? I catch them. And then my little girl that was so terrified of the water, she would put her toe in and we couldn't get her to jump no matter what. And we would stand out there and beg her. And she would go, no. Nothing about her was brave or risky. She fell in. We got her too. I don't know if you fear change or if you crave it. But either way, I want you to take a little pressure off of yourself and go, you know what? God's bigger than our places. He's going to work in surrendered hearts wherever they are. I think some of you, I think you're in the right places. I think you have enough ministry under your noses to never run out. And yet you still wonder if you're in the right place. And I wonder if that's because you're afraid. I wonder if it's because you're afraid that your place isn't that important. And maybe you could be happy in your place if you thought that it was valuable, or you thought that it mattered, or you thought it was important. Tim Keller redefined place for me. when he talked about work. And he said that work, good work, is taking the raw material, I'm going to say threads, of our life and helping other people flourish. And I think a lot of you that think that your place isn't important, you are helping other people flourish. And you are doing good work in your places. But it doesn't feel radical or flashy or exciting, and nobody sees it, and nobody knows. But God does. And God, I love this about him, is impressed with different things than people are. He loves people that believe that he's real in prison cells, in slavery, in quiet little homes, in public offices where there's 100 people working in cubicles and there's too much noise to even think. He loves people that when he looks down, he sees that they are surrendered and they are using their place and they are running their guts out wherever they are. So one of my friends felt in college like she just had to go into ministry. And she kept dating guys that were going to be pastors. I don't know if that was like part of her strategic college plan, like to end up in ministry, like covertly with a guy that plays guitar or preaches. She felt like that needed to be part of her life to obey God. She doesn't marry a pastor. She marries a guy that works with oil, and she becomes a physical therapist. And I remember sitting across from her at coffee, and she cried. She said, "I'm tired of not spending my life well. I want to spend my life well." And I think she expected me to give her a list of things to do, of how to do that, how to make physical therapy office all Christians, you know, whatever. I don't know what her plan was, but I think it was more than what I said. What I said was, why don't you just pray? Why don't you just pray? And a week later, Amanda and she were at a bar having a drink, and Amanda asked her about that. She didn't bring it up. Amanda, her coworker, asked her about that. So she sat there, shared Christ with her. Amanda and her husband became Christians. Amanda and her husband are leaders in our church. Amanda and Rachel invited to my very first Bible study stuck about 15 of their coworkers. Nobody felt forced to come. They actually didn't pay them or make them come, like they just came with them. Because their lives, like Paul's in prison, like Joseph in slavery, like Joseph in prison, were just that good that other people wanted their God. I don't know your place. I'm not saying it shouldn't change. But I promise you, not one of your places is not important. And there's not one of your places that doesn't need God in some way.
I'm going to turn the video around to see most of the room. Almost all of it. There we are. So, thoughts on the video?
It's just very concerning that where we are, it's where we are and make something different instead of just this. Anybody else?
Well, it reaffirms to me that after almost 60 years of being alive and being there. And then moving, from our home to here. That, and having prayed about it first, I'm comfortable that this is where I'm supposed to be. You don't expect to be making life changes when you're old. I'm looking at y'all when you're young. You've got so many changes ahead of you, but sometimes it happens.
Do you think that there are places where you are right now where God can use you? And are you brave enough to ask God to show you those places? And then, how can you bring those places together? I think she's absolutely right. I think that the way that you live your life is the way that people find God. I've been a believer of that for a very, very long time. And I think that when you are in the struggle and you do feel restless, that is when people are watching you the most. I think they want to see, how do you handle this? What's different about your response from everybody else? And I think that's a really high calling.
Go ahead. I was going to say, I was reading Romans 12:2 this morning, and it really hit me. I think so often our circumstances, even when they can get so bad, it's so hard not to conform to the world. Because the world is telling you should hate, you should be angry, you should, do all the things that your feelings want you to do, but they're just not right. And I think that it's such a big struggle not to conform to everyone else wants, and to look at those things and go, okay, even in the midst of this, God, I know in the end, you have people who are hurting, even in my struggle, who need to find you. Because the real healing is only there. And even though
Like, you don't want that. You just want them to go away. But you don't need that in Christ as much sooner. I think that's true. I think that that the calling is hard, but that you can do it. Even when you don't want to. Even when you don't want to. And that it will make a difference. Maybe our ladies in the room who are older, who have gone through change, places in their life that are testimonies, that there is another side. I think that being strong in your place is the way that you change the world.
knowing though, obviously we're friends, so I can tell you the struggles that I went through, I don't know how many years it's been since Joshua's dad and I divorced and I've been remarried, that I still have to surrender my flesh to a circumstance. And so give yourself that grace, and you also have to have a healing period. God will bring people in your life, and you can interact and talk with them, and you are allowed to feel, but He doesn't want you to stay there. But He doesn't have a time watch on, because everyone grieves differently. I love your heart, but there comes a point too where you turn that person over to God fully, and it's hard when there are kids involved, because I constantly have to resurrender and remember to put my eyeballs on that have Christ's vision, and that the words that come out of my mouth are not Kristen's, but His, and not have to be right even though I know I am. And that's what the most difficult part in an insane equation. Surrendering that, God, your perfect will is perfect. I don't have to be right, and I know you will solve this. It's okay to feel that. I still struggle with it. It's better, though. I'm going to tell you that. It is better. It's better. It's totally different than when it was in the beginning. Way different. Yours is, mine was.
And it, just like you said, there isn't a timeline. There's never. And the world, you let the world in, but you have to go through that. You have to walk through. You have to go through it.
And I've said it in here a million times, and I'll say it again, that God will not waste this hurt.
Nope.
There will be joy that can come out of this. I can't read scripture and not believe that somewhere, somehow, there will be joy again. Let's pray. God, you are so good. You are so loving. And when we are broken and we are hurting, you're there. You see this. You know this. You are just as heartbroken. Our lives are full of places, God. Places of great joy and places of great hurt. Places where we are happy and excited and loving life, and places, God, where honestly we wake up and we think, I cannot do this one more day. Can you give us strength? Strength to push forward, strength to stand firm in our places, or strength to move if we need that, God. But whatever it is, to stay, to go, to be, to do, whoever, whatever, let it be your will. Let it be surrender. Let it be Jesus. God, we trust you so much. Your story, your promises, your love and your grace. We could just sit and bask in all of it. Because it is so amazing that you, in your mercy, pour out new life, resurrection hope, every single morning. Every single morning. So put that hope inside of us. Help us to be in the place that you want us to be. So that we can show others your love and change the world for your grace and mercy. It's in Christ's name we pray. Amen. Bye, online folks. See you next week.